Thank you so much. It's such an incredible honor to be standing here today. I want to thank you. I'm somewhat intimidated, excited, and I'm encouraged that I was invited to be a speaker in this event. I want to thank all the ecosystem of Safaricom for welcoming me to this platform. And I want to, first of all, just introduce myself a little bit on a personal level in terms of how I have intersected a little bit with Safaricom on this journey towards becoming a purpose-led technology company. So I first came to Kenya in 2009. Briefly went to Ghana for a number of years, then came back again in 2013. And at that time, when I came back, I was invited to be a judge of one of the Safaricom innovation competitions. But at that time, for those of us that have been in science and science communication, promoting technology and innovations, Safaricom is one of those beacon narratives that we use to say Africa is rising, to say there is opportunity, to say that you can look to this continent as an engine of change. So Safaricom was always the go-to story, the go-to company that was showing how a company was looking at its people, looking at the challenges and saying, how does technology help to find solutions that are real on the ground, not just offer products that somehow people have to integrate into their lives. So now when I've looked at the timeline, I realize how much I've been journeying at different points with this journey towards becoming a purpose-led company. When I was in the green room, waiting to come and feeling a little bit, wondering, am I really in the right place with all these captains of industry and business? I was talking to one of the partners there, and a question was asked. Interesting question. The question was, is science overrated? And I said, oh, that's an interesting question. I said, no, science is not overrated. I lead an organization called Alliance for Science, and what we do is science communication on frontier technologies. And we need to do that, because before the public take up any of the technologies that the inventions and innovations, they have to have an understanding, they have to know where it sits in their life, they have to believe that there's a need for it. So the work that we do is creating an enabling environment for uptake of these technologies, and we try to do it a little bit ahead of where the products are coming. So we talk a lot about gene editing, we talk a lot about synthetic biology, we talk a lot about AI and how it intersects with some of the development challenges, and we try to get people to see and interlink the global challenges to science and innovation. And our strapline is Science for Humanity. So I was very interested in hearing the strapline technology for humanity. Science forms the foundation for technology, and then upon that, innovations are built. So when you look at the challenge, you hear sustainable business, and it's normal now to hear those words linked, sustainable business. But actually, it's kind of a new linkage. It's kind of a new linkage in terms of meaning, and it's a new linkage in terms of how it's showing up in practices, how it's showing up in products, and how it's showing up at how the world is understanding the role that businesses have in helping us reach our global goals. So it's a new thing. And then when we as communities of scientists and technologies and innovators look at how the general public is seeing innovation, we have to recognize that there is a challenge at certain points. When companies like Safaricom come into being, and they innovate and they bring products, you get about 2.5% of the population who are innovators and early adopters. They're like, oh, that sounds really good, and they begin to think about it. Takes a little bit longer, you get another few visionaries and thought leaders who also adopt it. But then there is a kind of a gap between that to where you get an early majority, which is about 34% of the population, and then a mass majority uptake of a technology. And that gap is where you need that leap. That's the challenge. The challenge to make the leap from an innovative idea to a few people adopting it to then the normalization of a technology and its usage. There's a gap. So how do you bridge that gap? And Safaricom has shown it, and this report really illustrates the three things that it takes to make that leap. It's actually a leap of faith. And to make that leap of faith across the chasm where a technology can die and really never come to life, you need three things. You need vision, you need ambition, and you need courage. And you've seen it a little bit in the introduction. You need to be able to articulate, where do we want to be as a people? How do we want to live? And how does technology underpin that? So I was so excited to see an articulation of what is the Nairobi of the future going to look like? How are we going to live? And then once you begin to see that, you begin to position yourself in that place. And you begin to say, okay, I think I want to get there. How do I get there? What would my life be like? And what kinds of technologies will I be using? Then you need ambition. So for the ambitions the huge global ambitions that we have in terms of SDGs and the targets that we have, you need the data to know whether you're on the right track, whether you're really making the journey or whether it's a pipe dream. And so that's one of the things that business does very well, businesses like Safaricom does very well, and it's the place where businesses like Safaricom and technology companies can work with development organizations such as ours and others in the room. Taking data and telling the story of where are we on this journey to this future that we want. And in Alliance for Science, we very much focus on looking at the SDGs in perhaps 3 tiers. So you look at the 4 SDGs that form the foundation of life on Earth. So how do you have a healthy biosphere upon which society is built, upon which you now can have prosperous economies and give us those futures? You need to look at how you're taking care of life on land, life underwater, how you're looking at climate actions. Those SDGs that are foundational are the ones that scientists are working on to make sure we have a healthy planet, to even have cities, to even hope for gender equality and better lives, etc. And then upon that, captains of industry can begin to say, okay, as we are generating wealth, how can we do it responsibly? How can we make sure that we are not polluting our planet? How can we leave a legacy for the future that our children can do things that we couldn't even imagine? So I was so thrilled to get a first glimpse into the Sustainable Business Report, because I saw courage in saying, okay, 2025, we're going to meet some ambitious targets. 2025 is really just around the corner. It's a short space of time. And when I saw that target, and I was thinking about, we are lamenting about, can we even reach the SDGs? It's 2030, 7 years. The Pope yesterday made a very strong statement about how disastrously close we are to collapse if we don't take this challenge seriously. So there are those who are looking at 7 years and saying, 7 years is not enough time for where we need to get to. And yet, there are those who are setting targets, who have the courage to say, 2025, we're going to do a few things that will help us accelerate action towards the future that we want. So I want to commend Safaricom for embedding meaning into the words of sustainability and embedding it within business practices and then linking it so clearly to a narrative of global challenges and goals, and inviting partners such as ourselves and others in the room to say, technology is not our savior. Technology is not our God. Technology is one part of a solution that is going to help us all get to a better place. And in conclusion, I want to also share a little bit of the conversation that I had before we came out. We were talking about money, and I've been thinking a lot about, especially when we look at climate action, there's a lot of talk during the climate summit, which we were part of. We created a climate action zone. There was a lot of talk around finance. Do we have enough money? We need to double the finance for globalized, it's hundreds of billions. I mean, the numbers become so huge that they cease to have meaning. And at that stage, you begin to think, wow, it's never going to happen. But I was on a panel with a visionary thinker from the African Development Bank, and he said, it's actually never about money. Money is not the issue, because money moves in certain directions. It moves in terms of need, it moves in terms of capacity, and it moves where there's opportunity. So it's not about money, because there's enough money. It's about how does it flow, and how does it distribute, and how does it place itself in areas where it can be really catalytic at the right time. So you don't have to worry about the numbers in terms of the money. If you understand the purpose for the money, if you understand the meaning, and if you can see when the money gets there, what would the world look like because it did something, then you can create a change. So I was really thrilled to hear about Safaricom again in the first with the sustainability-linked loan, and just generally businesses looking at things like green bonds. We were working with the Kenya Green Building Society during the climate summit, and we had a whole day looking at sustainable development, green bonds, and investments in infrastructure, and how that can transform lives. So I'm so thrilled to know that here is a company that is not looking at the bottom line in terms of numbers, is looking at the bottom lines in terms of transformation, and trying to work with others to say, let's co-create a vision for that transformation that will have meaning and will take us all somewhere where we will recognize in the very near future. Thank you.